Game design is one of those majors that doesn't really have as much information out there, and it was really hard to come by when I was applying. So I hope this will be helpful to prospective students. This is my application for NYU, but I think a lot of the things I'm going to say apply to other game programs. Timestamps in the description for specific topics. I did want to mention, just as something to consider, that I did apply to NYU for early decision 2. That's obviously not a make it or break it, but ED acceptance rates tend to be higher, and it was a factor in my application. If you're certain you do want to go to NYU, then I do recommend applying early decision. The acceptance rates are much higher, and you also get to find out sooner. I would also probably keep in mind that game design is a smaller major and less competitive, so this is not like a comprehensive guide into getting into NYU in general. I am in no way affiliated with admissions, and I can't say for sure what they're looking for in applications, but this is just a review and reflection of my own application, and there is no one cut and dry way to get into the program. So let's start with scores. NYU is currently test optional, so I didn't submit my SAT score. I did take it once because my state requires it to graduate, but my score was on the lower end of NYU's average, so I just didn't submit it. I know I was initially skeptical about the test optional policy, but it really is test optional, and quite frankly, I don't think you should invest your time or money, for that matter, into a scam that is standardized testing. As for AP classes, I only took 2. I took AP Lang for 1 semester my junior year. I ended up dropping it second semester, and then I also took AP Psych this first semester of senior year, but I graduated a semester early, so I wasn't there for the second half. And because I took both of them for only 1 semester, I didn't ever take the AP exams, so I don't have any scores for those. My school also didn't have any type of honors or IB classes, so I don't have any of those on my transcript. While I don't think NYU is cutthroat about you having a full schedule of APs, I would also keep in mind that this is within the context of my school. My school was incredibly small, and these 2 classes that I took were 2 of 4 AP classes that my school offered in total. For core subjects, I took 3 years math. I replaced my senior year math class with an English one so I could graduate early. I took science all 4 years with a total of 4.5 credits. And then, of course, 4 years of English. My school didn't do weighted GPA, so I had a 4.0 unweighted GPA, and I was ranked 1 out of 100 in my class. But with the unweighted GPAs, there was more than one rank 1 student in my grade. Under the honors section in the Common App, I had 4 titles. First is Illinois State Scholar, which is a title given to the top 10% of students in the state's graduating class of 2022. The first Tech Challenge Collins Aerospace Innovate Award, which was an award my robotics team received. Straight A honor roll for all 4 years, and the last thing was National Honor Society. My first activity in my Common App was NYU Tisch Summer High School. I did the game design program during the 2021 summer, and I got credits for it. There is another section under the Common App that asks for college courses you've taken, but I also wanted to put it under the activities section to expand more on what we actually did, as well as show that it was a meaningful experience to me. The second activity is fairly similar. It's a workshop that I took at DigiPen Institute, which was 2 weeks learning Unity. There weren't a lot of opportunities related to game development in my own school, so I wanted to put these 2 programs on here to demonstrate my interest. So the next few activities were my robotics team, a student-led community involvement club, and band. Then finally, the last thing I put down was a shadowing opportunity that I had at Deep Silver Volition, which is a game studio near me. I may have exaggerated it a little bit, but I did do that. So next part is my personal statement. For the prompt, I just chose the last one, which is the create your own prompt thing, because it didn't really directly answer any of the pre-made prompts, and then I didn't want to write this whole thing for a prompt and then not answer the question, so I just did the any prompt. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of my application. It went through several iterations, but I really like how it turned out. Above all, a ninja never quits. Somewhere along the line, a kid jumping around with a plastic sword declared it so. Who am I to stomp on a 9-year-old's dreams? The phrase is from the animated TV series Ninjago, a companion show to the namesake Lego sets. The series follows a group of ninja with elemental powers who serve to protect the land. In the face of the humanoid snake uprising, the Dark Overlord, or the literal end of time, the ninja take an oath to fight to the absolute end. Against all odds, the ninja declare, a ninja never quits. There's nothing groundbreaking about Ninjago. It's not tear-jerking and certainly not life-changing. To be quite frank, the show isn't all that good. Watch past season 2 and the writing is somewhat lacking. Nonetheless, Ninjago is an emblem of who I am. At age 9, I was invested in everything but reality. Cardboard tubes were nunchucks and hotel key cards were level 1 spy passes. I was a dreamer, I was a creator. My first Lego set was a Ninjago one. It was a mere 71 bricks, but it changed the course of my life. 71 became 200, 200 became 1,000, 1,000 became 5,000, and 5,000 became a lifetime of creativity. Legos led to stop motion led to film led to design led back to Lego. At that age, the only hurdle I had to face was the test of time. There were very few job openings at Lego for 4th graders, so I would just have to play the waiting game. But as time has passed, I've run into some slightly bigger roadblocks. I've had no shortage of low moments. At this juncture of my life, on more than one occasion, I found myself begging to be anyone else. For every happy moment I've had in my life, it sure doesn't feel like it made up for everything else. Why do I keep stretching myself thin only to be dragged back down to the same desolate spot? It would be so much easier to back out. Stop hoping, stop caring. Don't have dreams, don't get disappointed. Lay my ambitions to rest. If they don't mean anything to me, I can't be hurt when they inevitably backfire. I can't be knocked back down to the ground if I never stand back up. Every corner of my brain is telling me there's nothing left worth fighting for. There's one easy way out, and that's to back out of the running. But I can't, because in every corner, there's also the voice of a 9-year-old. I can't wait to be older. She really couldn't. Every waking moment was spent daydreaming of knights and ninjas and astronauts and worlds where all three collided. I'm going to have the coolest job ever. Eyes blindingly bright, grinning a mile wide with 2 dimples peeking out. A plastic shield in one hand and a light-up sword in the other. There was nothing in this world that was going to come between her and her dreams. I am a ninja, and ninjas never quit. She had one ambition, and it was non-negotiable. She endured every dark day with a smile on her face, knowing that one day, her stories wouldn't be confined to the walls of her bedroom. To give up at all is to give up on her, and give up on who I am. I owe it to her. I owe it to myself. I promised that nothing would stand between me and my future. Not snakes, not dark overlords, not the end of time, and certainly not my insecurities. Under a million layers of uncertainty is just a kid with nothing but hopes and dreams. Under a million layers, there's a ninja, and the ninja never quits. Next thing was my Why NYU essay. This is 400 words, and the exact prompt is, we would like to know more about your interest in NYU, what motivated you to apply to NYU, why have you applied or expressed interest in a particular campus, school, college program, and or area of study. If you've applied to more than one, please tell us why you're interested in these additional areas of study or campuses. We want to understand why NYU. I spent the summer before my junior year planning an hour-by-hour schedule that would allot me enough time not only for my schoolwork, but also enough to complete over 70 hours of online video courses in game development. I'm looking forward to an education at NYU where my passion for games is not a secondary undertaking, but rather an integral component backed by resources and support. With not even as much as an introductory programming class at my high school, NYU is bursting at the seams with opportunities for me to pursue my goals as a game maker. To the average adult, computer games sound more like a toy than anything worth value. The Game Center says it better than I ever could have. Games matter. More than anything, games were an emotional learning tool in my life. I want to make games that give people those same interpersonal skills. It's critical that my higher education provides me the opportunity to explore the tangible impact games have on people. That's why I'm so drawn to NYU's game design major, with an entire branch dedicated to critical play and social and cultural approaches to games. As the heart of the New York games community, the Game Center hosts dozens of opportunities that I'm dying to be a part of. Count my Thursday evenings already booked because I would be at every playtest Thursday possible. My tenacity is only magnified with the creative collaboration that these spaces provide. I'm determined on my own, but I am unrelenting in collaboration. Above anything, I'm eager to close out those 4 years and hit the ground running. not only through the Game Center's streamlined connections to the industry, but also through applying to the Game Center incubator. I want to share my stories with the common gamer, and a mentored commercial development space like the incubator would give me the chance to do just that. On the last day of Tisch Summer High School, my instructors all said they'd hope to see me again at the Game Center, and I can say the same. I wasn't even in the state of New York, but those 4 weeks had opened countless doors for me. A full-time enrollment at Tisch would be tenfold. The Game Center is holding up a new lens through which we look at games, and I want to be behind the camera. So next is the portfolio section. For your creative portfolio, the Game Center asks for some short essay questions, which I'm going to go over in the next section, and your creative project, which is the actual work showcase part of it. For specifics, you can check the Game Center website, and I highly recommend doing that. I submitted 3 projects for mine, 1 card game, and 2 digital games. So the first game is a card game called Adultery. I made this for a class I took for the Tisch Summer High School program. So I started with this intro sheet that just kind of describes the game and one of the early prototypes that it was based on. And then I attached the rule sheet and put them into one PDF and just uploaded that. The second game is a 2D platformer called Deep in Thought. I made this for a game jam a while ago. What I submitted was this PDF with a game description, instructions, and how to play. And I also decorated it a little bit and used a screenshot from the game here on the page. This last game is called Snake Pong. It's basically Snake, but there's 2 heads and the snake bounces back every time you collect a fruit. So once again, I made a PDF with a description, instructions, and controls. I also, added a screenshot. I personally didn't want to submit just links and stuff. So I made these PDFs for everything I submitted. So the next part of your creative portfolio are the short essays. There's 5 of them, and they each have a 2,000 character limit, which is 300 words, give or take. So the first one, the prompt is, why do you want to come to the Game Center? What excites you most about game design? One of the biggest letdowns of my life was learning that I would never actually be able to swing across buildings with webs or summon mystical creatures by flipping a coin. There is nothing more damaging to a kid's spirit than the brutal sledgehammer of harsh reality. It really broke my heart, but it didn't take long for me to find games. Games allowed me to live out the stories that felt so disconnected from reality. It became a common theme in my life, seeing my world through other worlds. I believe games are the purest form of storytelling. Interactive media is the only art form that bridges a direct connection between its audience and its content. There's something so uniquely visceral about having your own actions influence the art you're engaging with. This is what makes games so immersive and consequently powerful. It was through games that I learned how to interact with my own feelings outside the digital world. Games took my sense of failure and morphed it into confidence. They took my hopelessness and forged it into a sense of agency over my life. What seemed like impossible scenarios became conceivable, tangible experiences. When I finished that first playthrough of Katamari, something clicked, and a sense of control no longer felt so far out of reach in the real world. The notion of being able to craft my own version of those types of experiences makes me eager to spend some time at the Game Center. I want to make the same impact for someone else. Digital games are not just playable movies or books. Games are games. Games are a one-of-a-kind medium that directly joins an audience with the creator's intentions. Games aren't for watching, they're for experiencing. What better way to tell a story than to have your audience play the part? The next prompt is, we want you to write about a game that is not a computer or video game, a board game, sport, etc. that you like to play. What do you like about it? What about the game makes it enjoyable to play? Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza is a quick-paced, hand-slapping game that gets my family screaming at ungodly hours in the night. When playing it, it's hard to let your guard down. Every second of the game is a high-stake trial that commands my full engagement. The game is actually very similar to one my family had previously played. It was called Avocado Smash. Players took turns placing cards and calling numbers in sequence. If the card placed down matches the number called, players must slap their hand down. The last person to slap must take the pile of cards. First player to get rid of all their cards wins. TCGCP is very similar. Instead of numbers, the players call out taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza in sequence and slap if the word called and card placed match. There are also special cards: gorilla, narwhal, groundhog. Players must perform quick physical tasks and then slap their hand down. Avocado Smash had similar cards. Smash, immediately slap your hand down. Guacamole, yell the word out loud. I found TCGCP's special cards more engaging. They force you to be more flexible, to quickly switch between focuses, and they produced fun through physical engagement. It's incredibly entertaining watching a table of teens and adults desperately clap their hands together to form a narwhal horn. After playing TCGCP, I realized that a lot of our time playing Avocado Smash was spent arguing over whose hand was actually down last. There was one small rule specification in TCGCP that made a world of difference. In the rules of TCGCP, it stated that the players should slap their hands down over the pile of cards. This tiny addition saved us a lot of unnecessary bickering because you were always able to tell who was last, the hand on top. I love playing this game. There's no moment of downtime. Even if I have just one card left, one slip up can cost me my progress and reset the playing field. Everyone must stay engaged to the end. The next prompt: video game designers usually work in teams. What is it about you that makes you a good team member? Throughout my childhood, I had been told over and over that I was too sensitive. I got upset too quickly, I cried too much, and I cared entirely too much about what other people were thinking. The notion was a source of so much stress and insecurity for such a long time, but I've learned to regard it as the strongest asset I can bring to a team setting. I read too much into the things people say, or the things they don't say for that matter. When I'm not told anything explicitly, there's a voice in my head running through every possible scenario, convincing me that I'm doing something wrong. I'm not being helpful, I'm not valuable to this team, they don't care about me, blah blah blah. Given this perpetual what-if dialogue, I became well attuned to how others can get caught in this thought trap, and this awareness has given me the tools to spot when a teammate needs some reassurance. The strongest way to build team confidence is an attitude of appreciation, an attitude I carry with me at all times. There is nothing that makes me feel more valuable as a team member when I get to impart that same sense of value on someone I'm working alongside. The most productive, and my personal favorite team moments are when my colleagues get to see the same thing I see. I don't like having my peers sell themselves short, and so I won't let them. When they get to hear the strength in their abilities, they feel the strength in their abilities. This enables them to work confidently, to trust that they're capable, and to trust that I don't view their efforts as worthless. Reflecting on my own team values, I have to admit that it's true. There's no I in team. Teams are built on the persistent efforts of each and every individual, and a good teammate is one that recognizes and values that. The next prompt is: tell us about a game you know well. What is something that an average player might not know or understand about it? Katamari Damacy is a game about power, but more importantly, it's a game about progression. While being large enough to swallow whole countries feels amazing, what's even more gratifying about the experience is that you began the game at a mere 5 centimeters in size. Finishing a Katamari level feels like a high achievement. The beginning is frustrating. It's not intuitive, you can't pick much up, and you keep bumping into things. But as you learn to command your Katamari, you watch as the world becomes a footnote in your presence. Through every step of the way, Katamari rewards the player with a tangible sense of accomplishment. What was once an insurmountable barrier blocking you from the rest of the map becomes an inconsequential speck in your path. The obstacle that once gave you grief becomes not only a painless pickup, but also an object so insignificant to your size that its individual elements have been condensed down into one singular object. The trees that set you back by shaking items from your Katamari, the food stand that acted as a barricade between you and some of the only items you could pick up, and the vicious dog that sent you spinning in 3 different directions, all become so small in comparison that they essentially dissolve under the singular title of park. As you collect more and more objects, the camera pans out to expand the scope of what you were once able to conquer. Things that didn't even seem like items, more like game barriers, are revealed to be challengers in your path of destruction. With every new item picked up, the player gets to reassert themselves as the most powerful thing in the game. The game takes every measure to show that the player's efforts have stifled the authority that the environment once had over them. Not only does it give the player agency over their surroundings, but it does so with ever-increasing magnitude. Katamari Damacy grants the player power, but more importantly, it grants the player progress. The last prompt is: what are your hopes for the future of games? Moving into the future, I hope that as an industry, as an art form, games redistribute their focus to invest more in the name of change. Games hold such a unique power to reach its audience, and I don't think it's being properly utilized in the current climate of the industry. With the funding, games have the potential to be vehicles for change. As one of the largest forms of entertainment in the 21st century, games most certainly have the reach, but more than anything, games have the creative means. They interact directly with the audience and can steer the thought process through the feedback of play. I hope that more games take this principle and use it to promote emotional intelligence. Use it to constantly strive to provoke thoughtful reflection in an audience. Games can be exercises or practice in emotional processing. If audiences are continually exposed to these exercises, it builds fundamental interpersonal skills. Come time when they need it the most, they will have developed their sense of introspection and can drown out the uncertainties. Strides are happening. The Game Awards even recognizes these types of games with their own category, Games for Impact. But as we keep pushing further and further into the future, I want to see more of these games reaching more people and raising a generation of thinkers who have the means to navigate their emotions. I want these games to go beyond a list of 5 nominees. I want them to be every other game for the common player. More self-awareness creates more communication. More communication creates more empathy, and empathy creates a better world. What I hope is for the games industry to broaden its horizons, to stop funneling mountains of funds into single projects in efforts to take the next step towards photorealism, to instead start paving paths for the multitudes of projects that can teach a generation something new about themselves and the world they inhabit. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over some advice and tips for the portfolio. So the first piece of advice that I have, and I really want to stress this one, is to not worry about having actual games in your portfolio. While that's something I had in mind, you do not need to in order to get into this program. I have met a ton of my classmates who did not submit any type of actual playable game. Much earlier in my application process, I also talked to some students and grads from USC, which is another one of the top game programs, and they told me that they didn't have any games in their application. The most important thing is to show that you have the interest and creativity to make games. Not having games is not a reason to not apply to this program. Like, you're going into this program to learn how to make games. So you're not expected to already know. Now, with that being said, I do recommend submitting something game related to show that you have some understanding of some aspect that goes into making games. So you can submit a game pitch, a cutscene script, concept art, a character design, a level block out, a soundtrack theme. Anything that displays your ability to engage with the creation process of games. But also submitting other unrelated creative work is totally fine too. Game design inherently is like a very interdisciplinary study, so stuff like non-specific, like traditional or digital art, short films, animation, all that kind of stuff is fine too if you like don't have the time to make dedicated pieces, as long as you feel like you're showing the admissions that you are able to engage with games and, you know, the process of them. The next step I have is to give context to your work. In my opinion, being able to describe the context of your work is a good way to show admissions officers that you understand the creative process and like how to reflect on it. A good simple way to start is just by giving like a title, a date, and you know, whether it was like a solo project or you did it with a team. But you can also give like why it was made. Was it for a class, a game jam, a workshop, etc., that kind of thing. This is not like a requirement by any means, but I think this type of detail-oriented stuff is going to make your application stand out. My last piece of advice is actually something that was told to me by people already in game programs. Like I said earlier, I talked to some USC grads and students, and I think this was very helpful, this piece of advice that I got, and that is to tell the admissions office what you want to do with games. Like, do you want to promote diversity or accessibility, that kind of thing? Like if you have a social message that you want to promote, or, you know, what is your goal in making games? I'd say this is mostly going to be through your portfolio essays, but, you know, obviously you can put that into your actual portfolio pieces too, if you have something you've made or want to make for it. One of the exact prompts for the Game Center essays is great for this. The one that asks, what are your hopes for the future of games? So for me, I want to use games as like an emotional learning tool. So I tied that into quite a few of my essays. While you definitely do not need to talk about it that much, Having this sort of like end goal in mind, I feel like is a great way to direct your portfolio and give it a sort of theme. After I had this answer to what do I want to do in games, writing the essays felt a lot easier. This is a lot easier said than done, but don't stress too much about it. Whether or not you get into a school is not an indication of whether or not you deserve to be there. There are a lot of factors, and ultimately this shouldn't define your capacity for success. Talking to grads or accepted students really helped ease some of the stress I felt. So if there's anything you have questions about, I'd love to help. You can comment or message me. I can't guarantee my advice is going to get you in, but I feel like I have a good idea of what admissions is looking for, and I want to help in any way that I can. So that's my application. Good luck.